Conbini fans, and welcome, and a special welcome to any of the Latina ladies out there. If you're not familiar with what I'm on about, have a look at one of my last videos. I've forgotten which one it was. Ooh, I think it was the Els Phallus, where in the middle of the video I was busted for looking up Latina ladies on the Google Ads thing on YouTube, but we digress. Right, today, normally I get stuff on here that is shite, but today, this is one of those days where we've got something that's actually really good, unassumingly really good, and that are these 9 Velo gravel wheels. So these rocked up. Now 9 Velo, I mean, I've had them a couple of times on the show before. Their wheels are of very good quality. This one just winds it up to the max. This is probably the best made wheel set I've ever seen, especially in the hub, which we will come to. So this is another one of those segments of the video where I show you it on the bike. Now the bike is the gravel bike of choice, which is actually a fairly cheap bike. I wasn't sure if I'd like it, so I bought a very cheap frame and then quite enjoyed it. The handlebars are what came with it. The GPS unit is an iGPS unit. It's actually quite good, so check out the review on that. I would recommend it. And these are the wheels. Now, obviously, this is the back one and the front one. When you look at it, it doesn't look particularly flashy. It's very unassuming, and there's nothing really that would strike you as a very well-made product. It's quite like a fairly flat finish around the edge. Transition, if you actually care about that on gravel, if you put a road tyre on it and not a Maxxis Rambler, so this is more for off-road use. To be honest, I use this more for going up curbs and crappy roads than anything else. It just does the job, but the build quality on the wheel is exceptional, and especially in the hub. So for all you weight weenie pussies out there, the back wheel, the entire rotating assembly of the back wheel, weighs 2,070 grams. And the front wheel, I don't know if you can quite make that out, is 1,544 grams. Now there were some wankers in the comments that said I shouldn't do this on top of the Princess blanket because it would compromise my engineering integrity. Well, to all those commentators out there, go fuck yourself. What have we got? Well, these are the Maxxis Rambler tyres. I've kind of standardised on these tyres. I've just basically used them completely for gravel. They are not lightweight and they're not particularly aerodynamic, but they never give you a puncture, and I think the grip's fairly decent. I mean, I'm not putting out mega power. I do officially have the same power output as a prawn, and I don't really weigh that much. I am a smidgen over 70 kilos. Now, where is my pencil? Here we go. Here is the pencil. Right. So anyway, so there's the tyres. There's the light brown thing around it. This is the edge of the bead. So these wheels are hooked. Now, I think you'd have to be fairly stupid to get hookless wheels and tyres as a combination, because the chance of someone fucking up the manufacturing and getting some dimension wrong in the cycling industry is quite high, and that will land you in hospital. This is quite a dull grey finish, and you can just about make out the weave. I'm not even sure it's the weave. I think that's like part of the paint that's gone on. And then this is like, I think they call that enamel badging for the aesthetically astute amongst you. And then there's no clear coat on top of it, so it's like, I think, just pure carbon finish. It's not shiny at all. Then we've got the exposed nipples, which they have to be exposed on this wheel because you can't get to the back of the wheel, back of the spoke or the back of the nipple. I'll show you that when I take this off. And then you've got the fairly run-of-the-mill but quite reliable Sapim or Sapim spokes. And I think there was 26 of them. Can't really remember. I suppose it's not that important. Let me zoom out. And then from there you've got to the brake disc and the hub. The hub on this wheel is a work of art. It is absolutely brilliant. Whoever's designed the hub, and to be honest, the rest of the wheel has done a fine job. I wouldn't say it's absolutely cutting edge in terms of the wheel technology, but the hub is. The hub is, I would say, the best hub that I've ever seen. Now, a lot of people rave on about DT Swiss hubs. I don't think they're that good. Mainly mechanics go, oh yeah, it's a really good hub. They never really go measure anything and check anything. And if you do, you'll find that, okay, it's okay, but it isn't this. This is the best I've ever seen. I'll take it apart in a minute. 9 Velo own their own hub manufacturing outlet. And I think that's probably why we've ended up with such a remarkable hub. It may not look very much, it probably looks like everything else out there. It's just the way this thing's been made and machined is another level. The sealing on here is the best I've seen. So the hub itself has six, let's call them, attachment points with 2 spokes coming out of each. So you've got 12 on that side, so 1, 2, 3, 4, you get the idea. And then there's 6 on the other side, so it's 24 spokes. So it's a strong wheel, there's no doubt about that. To get this off, you pull this cap off, that in itself has an O-ring, and it's difficult to see probably on camera, but it's like a lip that is almost like a labyrinth. And I'll show you a diagram of what's happening later on. But you know, that's one element. And it's also a good fit. Then we've got the hub itself. The machining on there is really good, and this has been hard anodized, and I think it's a 2-stage anodizing process. A lot of them are fairly soft, this one isn't. And then you've got the bearing in there, it's full seal on there, and then you can just withdraw it. And again, the fit is really good. Now I'm not going to pull the whole thing off, or am I? Fuck it, let's just pull the whole thing off. So, oh fuck. If you pull this off, this is like a DT style ratchet. Now, I think DT's patent has run out, and everyone's going to this style. This, again, there's some subtle differences in there versus some of the other copycat brands, which you don't see. So the way that's been sprung is different. The quality of the washers is different. And you can just about make out the colour difference on there. That's harder than most axles. The other, I think, very telling thing is the quality of the seal actually in there. So there's the spring at the bottom. Hopefully you can just about see that spring there, and the quality of the machining that's actually on the teeth engagement in there is really, really good. The seal, I mean, that I'm not even sure how they made that. If I was to just show you, if I pop this back on. Right, if I just take the mic, pop this near to it. So this has, it's like a seal within a groove. So let's just pop this in. Hopefully the mic will pick it up. So what you can hear is the seal, the rubber seal, popping into the groove. Now that might not sound like a big deal, but in order to make that, that is particularly tricky, because the walls are thin, and when spoke tension is applied on here, it actually expands the fit out. So that makes it more difficult to make. The weight of the back wheel before any peripheries or anything like that are added is 797 grams. So it's just under 800. The width is, it's about 26, 27 millimeters. It's no way near as wide as some of the other wheels, and probably you're probably not supposed to put 45 mil tires on, but it worked without any issues. So 26 mil, and then on the inside, it's 21-ish millimeters. Rim quality is good. Now I couldn't get in to measure all of the stuff around here, but I mean, it has some clear advantages. The main one is you don't need any rim tape, and if you're running tubeless, you don't really have to worry about putting rim tape in and getting a good seal. You will have a problem, well, more of a difficulty if you were to snap a spoke, because you would have to put the nipple in through this hole with a magnet and then pull it round to the correct place and then pull it through to get your spoke through. I don't know how else you could do it. If someone knows, then do let me know. I think the first people to do this were Yolea. They had the SAT wheels with that kind of technology on them, but this is, yeah, this is 9velo's take on it. And it is that time of the show again. It is time for PowerPoint. If you're not familiar with what happens here, this is this fucking low-grade shite entertainment that you've tuned in for. Yes, it's full of PowerPoint. Fuck the fancy graphics. This is what I do almost for a living. Now, you know, you go through GCN, Dave Arthur, and all the other fucking knob cheeses on the internet, the cycling shill channels, and they'll all go, you know, this is great, this is a game changer, this is this, this is this. This wheel set, specifically the hub, really is excellent. It is, you know, where I think people can't really improve upon, this is it. That hub is just a work of art. By Hambini, aged 5. Let's check that pen is working. Oh, it is working! Right, remember to check me out on hambini.com, Hambini Edge on Shitstagram, and Patreon/Hambini. Right, what's the next slide? Oh yeah, show the 9velo website. Right, fuck. So this is the 9velo website. I wouldn't say it is the most flashy website in the world. Far from it, in fact. Yeah, it's just, I'd say, functional. They've obviously gone and linked the reviews from me, Peak Talk, and Trace Velo, but I don't think anyone's reviewed these particular wheels before. Just to give you a bit of background on who they are, I actually met them when I was at Eurobike with PT. So I went to speak to the lady who runs this organisation. I think she jointly runs this organisation. A very mild-mannered, unassuming lady. I think she's extremely switched on. And this is basically one of her products. This wheel set in particular is the one we've got. So you can get it with 45 and 55mm depths, and also SRAM, Shimano or Campag free hub, and then decals, and then the 36 tooth and the 54 tooth ratchet or clutch ring, however you want to call it, and the decals as well. Now, on a gravel bike, even for me, I'd probably say 36 tooth is more than plenty, because 36 tooth is 10 degrees, if that, so you're only out of it by 10, whereas if you're on 54, you'd be at 6.6, so it's not really much of a difference. You probably won't notice it if you're in low gear, but there you go. And this is all the stuff associated with the wheels. I will go through the bearings in a minute, but this is the spec. Now, I guess, but I'm not totally sure, that these wheels are component built. So they get the rims from somewhere, the spokes from somewhere, well, sapping in this case, and the hub from somewhere. Now, they own the hub factory, so that'll probably be why these are pretty good. And the bearings, we will come to the bearings because there's something quite unique about those bearings. Let me press the button. Right. Fucking hell. Ah, yeah, I've done through this. Don't need to know anything about that. Fucking wheel build. I mean, what can I say about these wheels? If you bought them, there's not really anything wrong with them. I mean, the run out's good, lateral run out's good. Okay, they're gonna come on YouTube, but half of this stuff is superior by design, not superior because they've built a special up for a YouTuber. Yeah, you can go look at the rim manufacturer pics. It's a bit limited because you can't get all the way around. This is the spoke tension. It is fairly even. I mean, people look for 5% deviation. And then, yeah, I mean, that's the front, rear, drive side, non-drive side. don't know really what else to say. The out of balance, it's not the class leading, so the Magine is the class leader, but this isn't too far away. The only slight difference is obviously because there's no spoke holes, it is a bit more tricky to get it so that you've got like even weight distribution all the way around, because you can't see most of it. So you know, take that into account. So you've got a bit of a phase angle difference on this one versus this one, but the actual out of balance value is quite small. Just to make you aware, and I have seen in some forums where they screw this up, the lighter you make the wheel, the more the out of balance matters. So 10 grams, I'm making this up, 10 gram millimeters on a 2 kilo wheel is much better than 10 grams of out of balance on a 700 gram wheel. So as the weight of the wheel drops, your out of balance tolerance gets tighter. I hope that made sense. These are the bearings, okay? So the bearings, the fit on them is absolutely perfect. Whoever has machined the bottom bracket and the hub has done a very good job. They look to be CNC machined, mass-produced CNC machined, but there are some features on there that make me think that it's not the usual feeding bar stock machine and then out the other end. It's probably, I don't know for sure, forged, and then the forging's individually machined. Again, I'm not sure. The hole tolerance when it was under tension was like M5. M7, so the critical number is the second digit. It gives you, you know, how much deviation there is in the hole. The 5 is a tight tolerance. 7 is kind of like standard tolerance. 5 is usually a ground tolerance, and it doesn't look ground. So they've obviously done a fairly good job there. To give you a bit of sort of context, you know, the interference is 0.02 millimeters consistently all the way around. It's probably slightly less than that. If you were to take an absolute black hollow cage, that's like 0.6, half a millimeter of deviation in the hole. So it's not a particularly round hole. That's, you know, one example. Another one is, you know, headsets. They usually have a slightly slack fit, but then again, they're not 0.02 millimeter. I mean, that is really very good. The bearings, if I was to look at them blindly without having the seals on them, I would say they were NTN because the vibration signature looks like an NTN. I think that they've gone to the place where the NTN bearings are made and said, give us a set of bearings that are the exact same specification but with a different seal sticker on the outside. It is that, you know, coincidental. So the bearings, riveted cage, which is like the best type you can get. I mean, you can get folded metal cages, which some of the cheaper wheels use. To the end user, you wouldn't notice the difference. Well, actually you would, because you'd have worse vibration, a bit more road noise, and they wouldn't last as long. And the wheel tends to rock a lot more, whereas on these one, didn't get any of that. So, you know, riveted metal cage, and the bearings are good. And now they're branded TPI, Tungpo International, which is actually a subcontractor for NTN. So from that, take what you will. I would say this though, I've seen some TPI bearings that are shit. So they obviously come in a bit of a plethora of quality spectrum. So this is a DT Swiss 180. So this was classed as one of the best hubs that you can get. Or, you know, bicycle shops class these as one of the best. If you do a run out check on there and then you support it like on a dummy axle, this is what I got. So I got 40 microns just adjacent to where the disc brake rotor goes. 20 microns in there, 50 microns on the periphery of the free hub, and then 30 microns on the other end of the free hub. That is, I would say, shite. Okay, kind of like expect zero. If you were to take the free hub kind of like away, what you've got is the bearing clearance would give you the run out. And these aren't, I would say, all that good. Now, I believe the same company, TPI, makes the bearings for this. I'm not totally sure, but I have seen some DT videos where there's TPI in the background. So from that, take what you will. This is the 9 Velo. I'm not sure why it says Corsair 540 there. Ah, fuck it. Probably a cut and paste job. We've got 0 on that side, 10 microns on that side, and another 10 microns on there. Now I couldn't get in here because of basically the spokes are there. So yeah, you can see there's a huge factor of difference in there. This is a better made hub than 9 Velo. Okay, I've used the same picture, so that should really say 9 Velo, but you get the idea. From an engineering perspective, this is just a league above. The sealing on this hub is what you would term as a labyrinth seal. Now, to explain how this works, let's assume we've got high pressure here. So we've got high pressure air. Pressure wants to equalize itself. So it wants to get from here to over here. So one of the techniques that people use is a labyrinth seal. So air comes along here, it swirls around here, swirls around here, swirls around here, swirls around here, you get the idea, and then leaves. That is a tortuous path, and the tortuous path reduces the flow or the leakage out. It also means that if you were to try and stop dirt getting in, it's got to go around a fairly tortuous path to get in, but it's not perfect. And it's not perfect because if you were to fire, let's say, if I just erase a ink point option, if I was to just fire a pressure jet of water through that gap, it would just go all the way through. And that's effectively what a non-contact seal is. It's just a very, very small gap, but it's not impermeable. A slightly better one is a stepped labyrinth, and you can see that one over here. So now we've got to go around there, up, round there, through there, round there, round there. You can see the tortuous path is now a bit more tortuous. And if you were to fire a straight jet of liquid in that way, you would hit this peak part of the labyrinth, and then you'd have to go all the way around. So if there's enough pressure there, it will go around, but it makes it much more difficult to get round. And this is it in practice. So this is out the insides of a turbine, and you can see the stepped bit of the stator. Okay, and then the corresponding bit, which would like sit in between. You can also see another one over there, some leakage there. Now, in the case of the 9 Velo hub, what they have is they've got a groove like that sits inside the hub, and then the seal goes in here. Okay, so let's say that's the shaft, and this is the seal. That is not an easy thing to machine because you've got a few issues that can arise. The main one being, well, let's say, because this is all a tolerance stack up, that you machine it wrong. So let's pick a different colour. And let's say you move that seal in a little bit too far. So if you move it in a bit too far, oh fuck, yellow's a crap colour. Purple, right, let's say you move it in too far, you're now touching on here. Yep. So you're now touching, so you've got a load of unwanted friction. That is a realistic possibility because the preload and all that kind of stuff is a tolerance stack up. The gap that they've got in there is like 0.1, 0.2 of a millimetre. It is absolutely 3/10 of fuck all. And that's one strategy of doing it. Now, the other manufacturers, what they tend to do is they have what's known as a floating seal. So a floating seal doesn't have this lip in it. All it's got is, you've got your straight seal and it just rubs up against the outside like that. So now you've got a friction point round there. On this seal, it rubs ever so slightly, but we're talking like 3/10 of fuck all. So they've got to machine the groove radially accurately and also axially accurately. There's two things. And then the tolerance stack up of the rotating parts to go in it is again something they need to consider. So, you know, that is, I would say, pretty flipping good. Right, tidbits. I've kind of like expressed this before, but this really is the best. Rivet gauge bearings, yeah, minus the text, blah, blah, blah. ISO size, excellent sealing. There's no badge. So if you don't know who 9Velo are, or if you don't care, then, you know, it's not, doesn't say like zip, I'm a twat on it, or envy, I'm not the envy of anybody else. So you pay a lot more money for those brand badges and for the labour from Ogden, Utah, or wherever the fuck they're made. But yeah, I don't think they could touch this. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. I've only just described the seal, but the rest of it, just the best. Right, you know, questions, comments, handbeanie.com, and please comment and like below. And that brings us to the end of this video. If you did enjoy it, remember to smash that like button. If you didn't, go screw yourself. And as always, keep banging your hairdresser.